Welcome back. You have just tuned in to Women's AM. This morning, I'm joined by Sister Yasmin, Sister Nusrat, and our special guest this morning is Mayameen Mutahi. Assalamu alaikum, Sister. Jazakallah khair for joining us this morning and bringing with you your wealth of knowledge and experience on this topic, alhamdulillah. So, as I said in the intro, you're the founder of the Tulip Trust, mashallah, and I understand you've got a lot of youth work going on at the moment within the Trust. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Alhamdulillah, yeah, I started the Tulip Trust for women primarily, self-progression of women, but then we saw a need in the market for actually educating and providing a safe environment for our youth, our young girls. So we've just started our youth project, which is our youth hub. It's fortnightly, and it is to bring a safe and fun environment, an educational environment for young girls, but in a halal way.
I think that's really important, actually. I think to actually kind of harness girls in their youth is something, you know, really valuable, and inshallah that will kind of lay the foundations for good sort of Islamic future, inshallah. So all the best with your future work on that. Without further ado, let's go straight to her views, where today we're discussing combating FGM in the Muslim community. FGM is a very controversial topic, which most certainly needs to be addressed in today's society, especially considering that it is often labelled as an Islamic practice. Often due to the areas of the world where FGM is prevalent, it has become synonymous with the practice of female circumcision in Islam. In a society where human rights are championed, does FGM cross the limits? And more importantly, how do we define it? What is FGM, and is it an Islamic practice? This is a very sensitive and contentious topic, and I'm sure many of you will have something to say on the issue of FGM. So please join the discussion. You can call the studio on the number on your screens now, or tweet us at Islam Channel, #WAM15. So, Sister Mayameen, you know, as I said, a hugely controversial topic. But I think, you know, firstly, to kind of get to the crux to the matter, is FGM, or female genital mutilation, is it an Islamic practice?
As you just said, Liz, it's very complex, it's a very sensitive topic. Female genital mutilation is not an Islamic practice, it's not a religious practice at all, and I think that's where we have to understand more so, is that it comes out of the realms of religion, regardless of that be Islam or Christianity. So it's actually a cultural practice more so, that is very complex, and it stems around a number of myths. So, as you know, we were discussing earlier, is that we could put a number of women in a room, and all of the ideologies behind female genital mutilation would be completely different. So, you know, we have to consider in particular that type 3, without going into too much detail about the types, but type 3 is infibulation, which is the complete removal and the closing of the female genitalia, leaving just a very small hole for urination and menstruation. So, you know, it's extremely distressing. It's got, you know, immense health benefits. It's not something that we can put into any practice or any religion. Because it's actually something that kind of it predates Islam, doesn't it? Even back to kind of ancient Egypt. You know, we kind of see this being practiced, and it was something that they did then to prevent you know, promiscuity amongst their wives or their women. And actually, the earliest record was by a Greek geographer or historian, and this was in 25 BC. Although he even said it was probably happening for kind of centuries before. So I think, you know, it is very, very misguided to kind of attach it to, as you said, Islam, or in fact any religion at all. But we do see, you know, as I said, specific communities, specific countries that are kind of practicing this more than others. So is FGM specific to, you know, Middle East and Africa, Sister Yasmin?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's not just within the Middle East, and it's not an African problem, even though the majority of the communities are from African, you know, Middle Eastern heritage. If you look at Malaysia, for instance, it's pretty much worse than Somalia, where 98%, according to UNICEF figures, 98% of women in Somalia undergo FGM. In Malaysia, you know, fatwas have been passed because of the Shafi'i school of law, and that school of law has caused some issues amongst the Muslim communities, and I'm pretty sure the sisters will agree with that, because the Shafi'i school of thought says that FGM is obligatory the same way as circumcision is obligatory to men. And now when you claim that, you are causing huge issues, because as you said, the definition of FGM is quite, you know, controversial, and people don't really know what it is. And some people call it circumcision. And if you look at the Somali language, for instance, or the some of the African languages, there is no word for FGM. It's just called circumcision, and usually it's just, you know, hidden under the carpet.
And what we have to remember there is that there are different types.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're kind of grouping it into this word of FGM or even sunnah or cutting or circumcision, what you're forgetting amongst that is there are different types. There's type 1, type 2, type 3, and as you said, so then what's happening is, where is the line? Where's the boundary of that?
And that's this kind of idea that it's something only unique to the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa is completely false. We find that medical historian David Gallagher even said that there's no way of knowing the origins because it appears to be in many different cultures.
Yes,
he's even mentioned the Australian Aboriginal tribes and different African societies. Rosemary Stewart, in her journal, Implications for North American Nurses, the Journal of Psychosocial Nursing, she even mentioned that actually it preceded Christianity. Now, when we look at even within the Western world, we find that this is actually something that occurs even within the North American context. So we find that even white Anglo-Saxon Protestant women have undergone this, and certain groups within Central and South America. There was a Patricia Robinette, who is actually a therapist dealing with the trauma of these kind of issues that were that white American women face, showed that actually some of these women were genitally mutilated as children and as adults, and this is even during the 1950s as well. Exactly. So to say that this is an ethnic issue or something something only specific to Middle Eastern and African people is completely false, because we see it in many societies and many cultures. So that completely breaks down the myth.
And it's happening across the board in so many different countries, and it's taking place here in the UK. Yes. If we look at interracial marriages, then this is where the UK, you know, we have statistics which are not actually up to date, but were back in 2011, where 24,000 girls in the UK at risk of FGM. So we can't. The problem that we have as a society is that we push it out to Africa or we push it out to the Middle East, but we don't look at what's happening right here on our own doorstep.
Essentially, we are deflecting the problem, and now that we are seeing, you know, cases in North America, in Africa, in the Middle East, essentially what the problem is, it's a patriarchal problem. It's a patriarchal issue, and people are sort of, you know, grouping it into religion or culture. It's not. At the end of the day, it's a patriarchal thing. You're trying to sort of dominate
our sexuality.
Exactly.
I think sometimes, though, I have had the opinion that actually male circumcision, you know, female circumcision, FGM, they're all kind of grouped together. They all should be treated with equal outrage. So, you know, how would you respond to that?
It's not the same, actually. You'll find that when a man he loses his foreskin or is undergoing circumcision, he's not affected in the following ways. One, when he's engaging in sexual intercourse, he's not the one having to bear any pain or to lose an aspect of his manhood, because he still has it. When you are a woman and somebody takes away that aspect of you, you feel less. It psychologically affects you, as well as sexually, physically it affects you as well. So it's not the same. The reason being that, at least religiously, something like circumcision on a man can at least be justified. For a woman, there's no real proper justification.
I think what we have to also remember is that female genital mutilation, if female genital mutilation, and I'm talking about type 3 infibulation, was actually carried out on a man, that would be the complete removal of his genitalia. So there is actually no comparison in that sense. And the health effects, as you said, psychologically wise, and even for that woman's physical ability is so flawed. And that's not overall, that's not just in some small, that could be right up until death, until even infertility, not being able to give birth and having to be recut again, so going through that trauma again. So when we talk about male circumcision, there is no comparison, in my opinion, because we know even male circumcision can be done for hygiene reasons here in the UK. Exactly. It's not saying it's an Islamic practice or it's a Jewish practice because we are circumcising men. We know that white Caucasian men can be circumcised.
It's something that's, you know, we're actually seeing it more and more nowadays, aren't we? Amongst kind of, you know, as you said, they're kind of non-religious communities as well, for kind of various reasons, including hygiene.
Medical reasons.
Medical reasons, absolutely. Sorry, Sister.
And I think it's like bordering on offence to say, you know, male circumcision is the same as, you know, female genital mutilation. I mean, the word FGM basically means female genital mutilation. You are mutilating the girl, you're not circumcising her. And I think, again, it's an offence to those victims who have undergone FGM.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, there are medical benefits for circumcision. There are no benefits for the woman for FGM.
Absolutely true. Unfortunately, we do have to take a quick break now, but don't go far, as when we return, we'll be asking, what is the Islamic perspective on FGM? Before we go...